We hear today that they've named a new acting finance minister, Patrick Shinamasa, who of course is an ex-finance minister under Mugabe. What's your reaction to that? Because of course all eyes are on Mnangagwa now to see whether he breaks from the past or he reaches out for some kind of new opening. What's your reaction to the news today about the acting finance minister?
Patrick Shinamasa is a ZANU-PF loyalist. He's, as you pointed out, he's been the finance minister. He's also been a minister of justice. He was he was active during the land seizures of 2000 that started in 2000, and he at that time was the attorney general, and he argued very strongly that that it was not an illegal act, that the government had the right to seize land. Because the land had been seized by colonialists 100 years before. So Patrick Shinamasa is very much a ZANU-PF loyalist, and this is the first appointment, and it's indicating that Emmerson Mnangagwa, the new president, is going to stick with ZANU-PF loyalists.
And what does that mean for the country in your view? Because all of those people out on the streets, many of them, they were saying they were hoping for a new dawn in Zimbabwe.
That's right. Emmerson Mnangagwa came to power last week with support from the military and support from ZANU-PF. And it's unlikely that the appointment of Patrick Shinamasa is the first indication. It's unlikely he's going to change very much from military and ZANU-PF rule. In other words, it is going to be one expects that it's going to be very similar to Robert Mugabe's rule, with a few changes. There is an expectation that the economy will be better managed, so that Zimbabwe could reduce its high unemployment rate and it could return to something like the prosperity that it used to enjoy.
And, what about taking on board the points of view of the opposition? We haven't heard a lot about the MDC, for example, which, played a crucial role for years and years. And there's international pressure. We hear about grand coalitions in Germany and other places. Is that going to be taken on board, or is it really the ruling party and that's it?
Well, remember, Mnangagwa did not come to power through a coalition. He came to power as I said, through support from the military and from ZANU-PF. However, they did, when they started the impeachment proceedings, they would have needed votes from the MDC, from Morgan Tsvangirai's party, if it had progressed. They would have needed the votes, and the MDC did say that they would support the impeachment proceedings. We can expect in the new cabinet that there will be a few appointments, including Morgan Tsvangirai himself and perhaps a couple of others in the new government. But Morgan Tsvangirai's party has been fractured. It's been very riven by factions. And also Morgan Tsvangirai himself is not well. He suffers from cancer, has been to South Africa a few times this year for treatment. So he may well be appointed to a position in the government, but he may not have the health to be fully active.
And Andrew, you on a personal level, you lived in Zimbabwe from about 1980, I think it was, until 2003 when you were expelled by the Mugabe regime. This must have really been something very personal for you as well, to see these developments, to see the downfall of Mugabe.
For me, as well as for so many other people, here in South Africa, there are 3 million Zimbabweans estimated to be living here who had fled the country either from human rights abuses, from economic decline, or because they felt they had no future in the country. So there's a great deal of excitement with me, but with many, many other people, and great hopes and aspirations that Zimbabwe can return to the kind of prosperity and the democracy that it once enjoyed shortly after independence. For me as a journalist, it was particularly gratifying to cover, to see a kind of culmination of a process that had been going on for some time.
And of course, you lived there, you had a life there, you lay down your roots there. Is there any chance that now there's a change, Mugabe going, that maybe you could return to Zimbabwe?
There is a chance, but it's very slight at this point. I was expelled from the country 14 years ago, and life moves on, work moves on, and I have found here, working here in South Africa, I'm part of Southern Africa. And so it feels, it would be nice to be able to visit. I'm not sure that I would return to live there.
And Andrew, just finally, just looking at some of the priorities, because you're covering the story as well from South Africa in terms of the economy, in terms of diplomatic relations and what have you. What do you say are the priorities now, the 2 or 3 priorities for the new government if it wants to get back to not being a pariah state, if it wants to get back onto the international stage, and it wants to answer the aspirations of its people? What are those priorities?
Well, Emmerson Mnangagwa set out his priorities, and he said it's the economy, and he was very, very pointed about it. He said jobs, jobs, jobs. And so that is going to be his challenge. And I believe he feels that if he can improve the economy, if he can provide employment for more people in Zimbabwe, why then that would be a significant improvement in people's lives. He will also have to stabilize the currency, which right now Zimbabwe is operating on a kind of mix of the US dollar, the South African rand, and what they print themselves called bond notes. So again, economic management would include the bond notes. I don't think that we will be realistic in expecting that human rights violations in the past under Mugabe's government will be addressed by Mnangagwa. Most likely because Mnangagwa, as the Minister of Defense and Minister of Security, he was very close to all of the rights abuses that happened, and also the military and the ruling party ZANU-PF that brought him to power. Again, they don't want to have a full clean sweep or a justice and a truth and justice commission on that. So I don't think that we can expect that. I think we can expect better management of the economy.
And actually, just looking at the economy, can we be hopeful hearing that the president has announced a 3-month amnesty for people who have illegal funds stashed abroad? This amnesty, is that hopeful, or is that a great step forward?
I think that it's a step forward, and I have a feeling that they have certain people in mind, former cabinet ministers who were allied with Grace Mugabe, and I think we've already seen some of those people being arrested. And I think that they have those people in mind, and they probably have an idea of where the money is, and they would then bring that in. I think you would see a selective application of that.
Andrew Meldrum, thank you very much for joining us. Great insight. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Seamus.